Now that we worked on our code in the last lecture, let's now add Express, so a framework for Node.js to make Node.js development easier. For this, I'll quit my Node.js server here, and I will install Express with npm by running npm install --save to store an entry in the package.json file, Express. That is the name of the package, the Express package. Let's hit enter. And this will now download Express and add it to our project. Now I will add the Express app and all the files that belong to it in the backend folder now. And we'll start real simple by adding an app.js file. Now this app.js file will hold the Express app, which is still a Node.js server-side app, just, well, taking advantage of these Express features. To take advantage, we first of all need to import Express, and you know how that works. Feel free to do it on your own. We create a new constant, name it Express, for example, and then use require and then Express, so the name of the package. This now is not a package shipping with Node, but the package we just installed with npm. So now we got Express installed. We want to use Express, of course. And one way of using it is to, for example, quickly add one such route, as it is called. So handling a request for a single special path only. We do this by first of all creating an Express app. I'll name this app and store it as a constant because I won't change it. And then we just execute that Express package basically, or whatever we imported from there. We execute this as a function and it will return us an Express app. This app can now be used, and the important thing about an Express app is it actually is just a big chain of middlewares we apply to the incoming requests. So like a funnel through which we send that Express, and every part of that funnel, or in that funnel we have different parts, and every part can do something with the request. Manipulate it, read values from it, or do something with the response like send a response. So we will add such a middleware here with app and then the use keyword. This simply, well, uses a new middleware on our app and on the incoming request. The middleware function, the use function here, in its simplest form, takes a function which is executed for an incoming request. And that function takes three arguments, request and response, just like Node.js did, but also a next function. This next function has one important purpose. If you execute it in here like this, then the request will actually continue its journey. So if I copy this, for example, and I add one other middleware after the first one, then we could console log something here like first middleware. And in the second middleware, we could do something with the response. So the first one, of course, is useless, just showing the middleware concept. So in that second middleware, I'm not calling next, which means after this middleware, the request won't continue traveling down that file and reaching other middlewares. And the only thing I want to do here, to not let it go into the void and therefore time out, is I will send back a response, because the client which sent the request is of course waiting for such a response. We do that with the response object here, but this now actually is a different object than in Node.js. It's more powerful. For example, it has a send method. And this allows us to send back a response easily, like hello from Express. This will also implicitly end the response writing stream and will simply just, well, return that response and set the right headers, do everything for us. So it sends back this response for an incoming request. And the only thing we now need to do is we need to wire up this very simple Express app with our server here, where we of course are listening to incoming requests. We want to use that app as a listener, so to say. Now to export this app, we don't use the export keyword like this. Instead, just like imports that work a bit differently, exports work also different. We have a module object which has an exports object, and we register what we want to export in this exports object as a value, so to say. So here I want to export the entire Express app, this one here. And this will not just export this constant, but also all the middlewares we attach to it. By the way, in case you're wondering, this is a constant because we never override the value stored in app. It's always this Express app. But we can then use this Express app to register new middlewares. This is not changing the value of this constant. This is why we can use a constant here. Then we're exporting the app. Now we just need to import it in server.js. And there I will add a new constant, app. The name is up to you. And I will require, and now it has to be a path to our app.js file. A relative path, so it's /backend app, like this. Now I want to use that app as a listener for incoming requests, and all that has to be done for that is I pass it to create server. So there I simply pass app. Now one other thing is important. Before I do that, I will tell Express on which port we're working. So I will call app set to set a configuration for my Express environment. And I want to set the configuration for the port key, a reserved key Express knows basically. And there I will set this port. Now to not reuse the code, I'll simply add a new constant port here, store that code in there, and then use that port constant here, and also down there in the listener, which we still need to start. With that, I got my Express app set up and connected. And what we should see is that now if I restart my Node server, we actually see hello from Express and this log here in this console log if we go back to localhost 3000 and reload. And indeed, here we see hello from Express, and in the log we see first middleware. And this proves, well, the fact that both middleware is executed. And if you want, you can comment out this next call in the first middleware, restart the Node server by quitting it and then rerunning it. That's important because we changed server-side code. And then if I reload, well, we actually see it's loading infinitely here. It will actually time out after a few seconds or after a minute because we're not returning a response. We get first middleware here, but then it's stuck because we're not calling next. Hence, the request is not allowed to continue. It's not reaching this middleware, but we're also not sending a response here, and therefore it will time out at some point of time. Now, I will simply quit the server to cancel this, but this is why it's important to call next if you're not sending a response. Now, with that, our Express app is added. Now let's do some refinements to our server before we actually start adding some logic which we can target from within our Angular app.